Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Westeros. We are coming at you live from King's Landing with a sea of spears. I am joined as ever today with the lovely young scions of House Nymerian, a house of mingled Dornish and Valyrian blood that are now finding themselves knee deep or maybe now waist deep in the muck and mire and politics and friendships and alliances and gossip and backstabbing of King's Landing. Specifically, today we're going to pick up mid feast as they're all in the Queen's Ballroom of the Red Keep, where they were personally invited to dine for a kind of mid tourney feast with the Usurper King, Robert Baratheon, first of his name, whose rebellion is responsible for the death of their parents and almost the extinction of their house and stuff. So things are maybe a little bit awkward, but they kind of showed up under the protective nanny wing of the Queen of Thorns, Lady Olenna Tyrell, who was quite a bit nicer to them last session than she had been in the past. She's been rather impressed with the exploits of House Nymerian, and King Robert has certainly been crueler to House Nymerian than he was when they showed up last episode. The things are going pretty okay, and everybody's getting camped in around the feast hall, making new friends, flirting with dangerous Disney villainous knights and stuff like that. So let's just get right back to it. I'm going to look off to one of my sides. We just had a whole talk about how Discord mirrors our images a little bit. So I'm not sure which side of me my lovely wife Felicia is sitting on, but Felicia is going to introduce her character. What fancy clothes are you wearing, and what are you doing here at the feast? What do we got?
Hi. Raina is wearing a lovely Dornish style gown, which is actually uh, two different pieces with layers linking it together. And I'm wearing colors, the wine, the silver, and the gold. And she also has a fancy updo with her silver blonde hair, and dangling here on her forehead is a one of our it's a sigil, the wyvern. No. uh, it's and it's all very ornate, but it's also very Dornish. At our first thing, I had gone, kind of northern styles, but not at this feast. Now we're all Dorn, and I am actually hanging out with my sister Bela and some people we competed against in the horse races.
Yeah, that's right. I am Erica, and I play Bela. And Bela's wearing a dress that's a little bit more reminiscent of King's Landing. It's a solid blue dress that has some lace on the top of it. It's a shoulderless dress, and she has a necklace that was a gift from her brother, brother Luke, and it is a giant um, oh my gosh, a sapphire. There we go. My brain's doing weird things right now. And this it's a giant sapphire, oval shaped, and it has my personal sigil, which is two dragons wrapped around a spear. And yep, so Rain and I are talking with the Maya Stone and um, another lady that I forget the name of off the top of my head.
Mary
The
or
the
Miranda Royce.
Miranda
Miranda
Royce.
Royce.
the
That's it. I
the
almost went.
bubbly and yeah, the bubbly and buxom Miranda Royce compared to the kind of tall, strong, powerfully built Maya Stone. So they're kind
right?
of unlikely friends that are kind of physically opposite. So it's probably actually kind of a striking table right now with the two sisters that are also kind of strikingly opposite, with Dornish versus Valyrian features, and then the curvaceous Miranda Royce, highborn from a wealthy Vale family, and her unlikely companion, the bastard-born Maya Stone. So yeah, like that's a pretty cool foursome at a dinner table right there, hanging out together. all looking pretty distinctive.
Yeah.
Uh,
And so we were talking about the horse race that we were in and how it was a lovely time, and then we started to talk about different boys and specifically Sir Garland, and we were
Oh,
enjoying all the food, and that's where we had left off ourselves. So I will uh, pass it off to the wonderful brother who gave me this wonderful necklace, Sir Luke.
Hi, my name is Robert. I'm not sure how wonderful brother I am since they've forgotten I was also at the table. Apparently, Sir Garland is just that demanding of attention.
he kind of is.
they're like,
So-
yeah, other men technically exist, but
Luke is wearing a, if I recall properly, a deep red setup with a silver underneath it. It is kind of done up in a Westerland style, although the cloth itself is much looser, made of slight silks and other fabrics, and hangs a lot looser, kind of like you'd see a Dornish robe.
Excellent. And I know he was flirting with somebody.
It was
Miranda Royce.
Miranda?
Royce.
Because trying to flirt with Maya Stone didn't work.
No,
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's got eyes for somebody
Michael
who's
Redford.
ignoring her.
she seems pretty focused.
speaking of Michael Redfort, who do we know that's sitting pretty close to Michael Redfort right now?
That would be me. I'm Ash. I play Adam Nymerian, the youngest brother of the siblings. He's currently turned up in an outfit of his own design because he is the stylish Nymerian. So mostly traditional style, but he's kind of put his own sort of avant-garde, very modern twists on it in kind of black and grey and silver, with a big fuck off opal ring that kind of makes it just a little bit more ostentatious. And in the first of what is likely to be many poor life choices, he has sat opposite Lynn Corbray and started talking to him, chancing the odd little exploratory flirt, which I'm not sure how that's going yet. But Michael Redfort is sat right next to us, and probably, from what I gathered, thinks we're just talking about swords, but we're not.
Yeah, Michael Redfort is the squire to Sir Lynn Corbray, who has got a very dangerous reputation, not a great reputation in Dorne, but he also potentially has a reputation as being kind of a notorious bachelor, which is polite historian speak for probably a gay dude. And he is famously disinterested in women, etc., etc. So young Adam Nymerian is over there trying his luck and trying to steal Lynn Corbray's heart away from Lady Forlorn, the only woman he has ever touched. Because he's, of
Wow.
course, sitting at the table, idly stroking the hilt of his longsword and eyeing people with his kind of cat-like gaze. And Michael Redfort is this kind of dashing young squire that's sitting at that table that's pointedly looking away from the rest of the contingent because Maya Stone, who the rest of House Nymerian is sitting with, has been making goo-goo eyes at him all week since the Vale contingent arrived a little late. And Michael Redfort has been pointedly ignoring her. So he's kind of looking away from the rest of the group and is trying to politely and attentively learn from his knight. He's like, why is my knight even talking to this kid that's not even a squire? What's even going on? Whatever. Grown-ups are weird. And he's just kind of doesn't seem to be picking up on the big gay energy going on at the dinner table there. We have one more member of the House Nymerian retinue here in an official capacity that was also seated over there at the Vale table, and that is Sir Vannon Rivers, the bastard ward of the house. Kevin is going to be taking a break from the game at the least for a while. We may be seeing him again in some later arcs, but we aren't going to pull a George R. Martin and randomly have Sir Vannon die or something like that.
Terrible.
We're not just gonna kill somebody off for shock value early. So we're gonna loop back around to Vannon Rivers in a moment. There is, of course, one last kind of semi-PC character that the group is responsible for, and that is Oris Waters, who is their bastard, serving as a squire to the lot of them. Adam, who is the Tan of House Nymerian, has been doing style makeovers on Oris all week, every chance he gets. So Oris is dressed up. It was all blue and black, as I recall. Well, more black than blue. So it holds
dark blue and black.
Yeah, the black hair that he's got, and then those blue eyes leaping out at you from the highlights in the cloth. Oris has defaulted to his solo mode of sitting alone and eating alone. He's down at the end of the table opposite you guys. If you may recall, the Queen's Ballroom is laid out for these feasts in kind of a lowercase n shape, I guess, where the top of the curve is King Robert's table, where he is sitting with his brother and the hand of the king and that sort of thing. And then each little branch of the table, on one side, there is the Vale contingent, which is kind of led by Sir Peter or Lord Peter Baelish, who none of you are actually kind of hanging out with because fuck a bunch of Littlefinger, but you're hanging out with other people from the Vale. And then opposite them on the room is a bunch of Reach knights and lords and some Stormlanders, including your friends from House Lucas and that sort of thing. Well, way down at the end of that table, there is a lowborn man-at-arms, Lothor Brune, who was here for the melee and was invited to the feast. And sitting a chair or two away from him is Oris, your bastard squire. So he's just kind of sitting down there, and, the two of them are, pointedly and politely ignoring one another in companionable lowborn silence, and they're just eating this rich people food by the handful, because it's not every day somebody without a lord or a sir or a lady in front of their name gets to eat this type of food. So far, you may recall, the feast opened with some little crispy sweet corn fritters, little black bread crackers, with a goat's cheese and onion spread, a very sweet blackberry wine that's an Arbor special, and then they moved on to the amuse, where you've all been enjoying little crusty bread tears with an assortment of rich associate vinegars to dip in, kind of little platters of balsamics, and then also almost little like palate cleansing shots, little like silver teacup type of things almost, of a pork and pea soup that's served cool. And you think it's got some mint in there too. So it's a weird kind of, palate cleansing ending to the amuse, transition to the soups. As the soups are being served, let me get a couple of numbers from chat. Give me 3 random numbers between 1 and 30, chat. And while you're typing that up, we have some family melodrama to kind of play out, or at least to acknowledge. And that has to do with Sir Vannon Rivers, who was the bastard of Wyvern's Rest and ward of your house, who learned last session not only who his mother is, but that she is here, and that she is married to the patriarch of the Kettle Black clan, who he has been having some disagreements with this week.
Little ones.
To put it
Little one.
mildly.
Yes.
They're a
So,
Did he break one of their arms?
yes, 3 of them jumped him in the pavilion grounds, and he was able to lash out really solidly at one. So you guys actually haven't been catching any flack from the second Kettle Black brother. because he's had his arm in a sling all week.
Didn't
So the eldest. Whoop, go ahead, Ash.
didn't Oris throw a table at them as well?
No, that was the little Frey shits. That
Oh
was
yeah,
some
fuck
different
them.
Frey
squires.
shits.
Yeah, yeah. They
Kettle blacks
stabbed.
are big shits.
Yes, the Frasers, the little shits. Yeah, the Kettle Blacks have been accosting Sir Vannon, and this might just be one of the reasons why. But it turns out that it's lucky none of them have killed one another because a kinslayer is an accursed thing, and they're half brothers. So, Mother's Day breakfast is going to be awkward from here on out. All the Kettle Black boys and Vannon making scrambled eggs and serving breakfast in bed to Mom. It's all going to be a little weird. They'll be stabbing each other and stuff like that. But more to the point,
Just like Thor and
Um,
Loki.
yeah, just good old rambunctious boys will be boys stuff. Um, so in between courses here, as some of the servants in the Red Keep are taking away some of the earlier dishes and starting to bring out these soups, we've also got Sir Vannon downs a whole thing of Tiroshi pear brandy, which is kind of the stronger drink that has been prepared for the evening. It's still sweet, but it is potent. And he drinks his like a shot and gets himself to his feet. And you can see the Blackfish giving him a nod about something. And Sir Vannon makes his way past you lot, giving you a bit of a nervous sidelong glance. You've seen him have that same look in his face, like prepping for the joust, like he was walking off to combat and had steeled himself, right? And then he has a few words with the kind of middle-aged woman sitting with Oswell Kettleblack and Peter Baelish. Things look a little tense for a moment, and then Sir Bryndon Tully, the Blackfish, currently serving as the Knight of the Bloody Gate in the Vale of Arryn, excuses himself from a few seats away from you all. And you can hear just kind of a tense, but not like impolite, like everybody's being very stiff and formal. And then you see Vannon offer his arm to that woman, and they walk outside. And you see the Blackfish walking alongside Oswell Kettleblack as kind of a pair of wary chaperones. And that foursome is heading outside. Looks like they're going to be taking a walk in the gardens. Lord Peter Baelish smiles his affable smile and just scoots down the table. And Adam will hear him joke, "Well, it would appear I've lost my company for the meal." And he just kind of sidles down the table and sits next to Lynn Corbray on the other side of him. So you're getting almost a job interview vibe now because there's three of them opposite Adam at the table.
It is here.
So that probably isn't going to super help any sort of
Right.
flirtatious anxiety. But yeah, the rest of the table just kind of emptied out, and Baelish just slid down to sit by his, kind of compatriot, Lynn Corbray.
This is terrifying and awesome.
And then there are a few, kind of about two empty chairs, and then it's Miranda Royce and Maya Stone and your siblings. So right now, all of House Naumerian's off on like that table with you guys. You're all in the same kind of bank of long tables. So you're not terribly far from each other. Which means that you're all there as the soups are served. The first one, and these are all served in individual bowls, and then also like a larger bowl with a ladle gets put in the center of each, kind of knot of dining people. And they pointedly don't take away your small, ready-to-tear breads. So people have those available to clean out their soup bowls if they'd like. But the first one, yeah, what's up?
As this is going on, I like to take various excuses to get closer to Maya Stone, not Maya Stone, but Miranda Royce, and start chatting her up, that kind of thing.
I had assumed that was already going on.
I just want to start by.
Yes. it's easy enough to lean her
I've got
way.
lots
and
of
scoot-
persuasion.
Yep. You're like, oh, the servants are reaching for something. I will lean your way and scoot just a little closer. Oh, the servants are back and they're serving some food. I will scoot out of their way by leaning your way and scooting a little closer. You notice that she is doing the same from the other side, and she is staying leaning a little bit longer than maybe exactly appropriate for a lady of her curvature and posture. So she is,
There's the bounteous
yeah,
few.
you're getting a good look at the rolls on the dinner table tonight. But
I know that was a double entendre, but I'm so hungry right now.
that's fair. Well, you guys have an assortment of soups available to you now. There is a sweet, creamy pumpkin soup that is carefully served
This.
with a clear, visible dollop of honey or honeyed butter on top of it. So it's like a warm pumpkin soup with a honeyed butter to mix in. There is a hearty barley venison and leek mixture that is only just barely not a stew. It's almost thick enough to call it a stew instead. There are roasted onions in a white gravy that are just gravy enough to be a soup instead of a topping for something else. But it's an excellent mixture of sweet and salty. And then lastly, there is a rich and decadent buttery garlic cream that is rich with snails that you're pretty sure have been cooked in that mixture. So the soup wave has hit each table, and it's a mixture of very decadent flavors. And you can certainly imagine opposite you all, Lothar Brun and Oris are maybe on the verge of knife fighting each other for more of the barley venison leek, while probably warily eyeing all the rest of them. But King Robert knows how to put out a spread for people that King Robert likes, and also the rest of you here in King's Landing. So you've got that mixture of kind of meat and potatoes and, higher, fancier flavors. So there is an assortment of soups. Everybody gets a very small bowl of each of them, and then the ability to refill as desired later on. And now we are going to kick off the chat interactivity. I am seeing a 29, a 2, and a 17 by my count. And we're going to take them in the order that they were given. So the assumption, as with last session, is everyone's doing their kind of small talk, socializing, flirting, gossiping about Sir Garland the Darlin, or what have you. But we're going to do a series of kind of NPC prompts as various NPCs on the guest list are all going to kind of spur potential conversation, and all the PCs will get a chance to kind of respond to that because you're all allowed to like get up and move, if you want to. It's a social event, or talk about what just happened with the NPCs that you're already near. So hopefully everybody gets a good mix. We're going to kick it off with that 29, which is Grand Maester Pycelle. With this one,
That's
it's okay.
Take ages.
He doesn't talk for 4 minutes introducing each soup and giving all their titles.
Thank
Thank the 7.
What he does do is draw every eye in the place up to the kind of royal table, which, with the exception of the Master of Coins, Peter Baelish, not being there, is also kind of a small council table. Because it's King Robert, it's his brother that's the Master of Ships, it's the Hand of the King, John Aaron, and his family. Now, there is a seat that's been co-opted by Lady Olenna, the Queen of Thorns, so she's also up there. But it's also up there at the royal table that there is a seat for Grand Maester Pycelle. And you all know that, and you all know that the soup is being served because you get... as his little old man face starts to scrunch up and starts like slurping at each soup one at a time, and it's one of those accidental party things that hits just in a lull in conversation as everybody stops talking for a moment and everybody's like eyeing their soups and
As
like
the
getting spoon like that perfect moment of silence. And then there's little old man at the big table that goes,
Rusty, after this hits, about a half a beat later, I'm going to say to the table, well, I guess he doesn't have a chain for manners.
and you get a polite titter from the women sitting near you. It's a little bit closer to a genuine chuckle or guffaw from Maya Stone, but she's throughout the evening. You notice she's occasionally glancing at Miranda Royce, and then kind of adjusting how she's sitting or how she's holding a fork or that sort of thing. She's Maya is putting forth an effort to be more ladylike, but it slips kind of adorably every now and then. Um, in the wake of the kind of girlish giggles and all that, and Peter Baelish, you notice Adam, he doesn't bat an eye. He doesn't comment on someone else's ill manners, and Michael Redfort just does what Lynn Corbray does, not in how he's sitting and dressing. Calm yourself. But he is definitely taking cues from his knight. And Lynn Corbray just kind of doesn't care about Grandmaster Pycelle. But you do all hear in like the next beat an indignant yelp. And you glance up at the big table again, and the Lady Olena has stabbed Grandmaster Pycelle with her fork. And just giving him a little jab in the arm. And is like, damn it, Pycelle. And we're not in your precious citadel. Learn some manners. And is shoving a spoon towards him at the table. So yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of great stuff to work with Grandmaster Pycelle, but we do have a breach of etiquette to have some fun with. So how is everyone else doing with their soups and the last of their breads and that sort of stuff? Are people acting like they should with their status scores, or are they ignoring the food and focusing on Lynn Corbray's dreamy eyes, or like what soups are people going for, and how polite are they being about the consumption of them and stuff?
I will be going for the pumpkin with the honey butter, I believe. That seems the most likely one to have flavor profiles that remind me of home. And
I'll have. Go ahead.
I will have it in my little bowl, and I will allow it to cool properly, and it will be eaten with a small spoon instead of the bread because it's not the stew. And it also allows me a chance to speak without having to.
So what about Luke? Looked like he was interested in
Yeah.
some of the soup.
The thicker, almost stew-like, I'm going to enjoy. Luke will have it as casually as possible while still not violating any rules of etiquette.
Yeah, the cool guy soup. I get you.
You're right. Yeah.
The cool guys.
He pops his collar and slings his denim jacket over his shoulder while he's sipping his soup. I got you.
I like the idea that I'm leaving the rest of him. The idea is he acting this way now, or does he always do this when we're not fucking here?
Yeah, no idea.
And you guys haven't had a whole lot of meals together, really. You have occasionally devoured some pub grub at the Green Tree, but this is and this isn't as stilted as formal as the first feast. But yeah, like you guys haven't really eaten together a whole heck of a lot. So yeah, maybe this is just how Luke eats. Maybe he just got really cool while he was away. You don't know.
Maybe.
I didn't think the last one wasn't a question.
Bayla's going to go for the creamy soup with the snails, and she's going to definitely be a little bit more proper with it, trying to blend in with the higher society.
I'm not sure what the right way to do that with snails is, but I'm sure that Bela does it well.
Depends
You make
on
very
how
intense.
it's
You bite
prepared.
the head off
Snort
each
'em.
one individually while making really intense eye contact.
Yes.
Can I
Depends
tell
on the
sarcasm
Yes.
or secret European technique?
Yeah, like Ash is our only European, so I think we just have to take him at his word on this one. Emily.
We're
We just have to
Americans,
believe
so
you.
It works for anyone depending on who you're looking at. An enemy, you bite it off while staring them down. An attractive girl you want to bed, you just kind of like slurp it up very seductively, and you just go from there.
There's
Nothing.
there's ways to go.
that is how I eat my
It's
gummy
very
worms.
versatile.
Nothing says romance like slurping the snail. That was Erica's phrase, not mine.
I know, but it's
So-
really your fault.
So what about
I need
Ash?
that fan, Ash. Ash, I need that fan.
So how's Adam doing with the soups and the dinner company?
Right. Well, I mean, like the one that jumped out at me was the pumpkin one because that sounded fucking delicious, quite frankly. And yeah, the thought of the snails just sounded kind of gross. Also, I might want to smooch someone later, so I'm avoiding garlic.
It's a good call. It's a good call.
That's
Later
good
there will,
logic.
yeah, later there will be the a mint and toothpaste chutney that everybody does right before the dancing starts. There's
For
the
the traditional Westerosi kissing contest.
That
So you
have
notice,
those?
yeah. Why haven't we been at King's Landing before? Peter Baelish, for his
Well,
part,
not here they don't.
yeah, he's pointedly sipping and like vociferously complimenting all four in a very Littlefingerian way. I'm not gonna pretend that people don't know Littlefinger's gonna Littlefinger, so like he's clearly like playing all four sides in case any of the cooks are overhearing. Right? It's like he's just like, oh, this is delicious, and oh, this one's quite good, and he's going from like soup to soup. Michael Redford is eating and enjoying whatever Lynn Corbray eats and enjoys. Romantic choices notwithstanding. But he is very clearly like aping his night all evening. Again, they're going to just pick up on that with your passive awareness being what it is. Like he's clearly like Lynn Corbray is a great swordsman. I'm a good young swordsman. I will be like Lynn Corbray. Right. So he's like,
every time Luke picks up on this, he's gonna just kind of shake his head a little bit to himself, with the thought that, like, I listened to Sir Santagar whenever I could. I didn't eat what he ate.
Yeah.
different nights, different strokes.
Michael's
but
very,
he's doing
very
that.
earnest and wants to, like, be good and stuff. Like,
And he's also,
you're a rebel.
and you can tell he's also pointedly patterning
I'm
himself.
Dornish.
Yeah, he's
But
patterning
he's very
himself over.
self-conscious.
Yeah, he's trying to be aloof and cool, but like because he's trying it, it's kind of not working. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
Lynn Corbray is going for the barley venison leek combo and the sweet pumpkin. So the fact he's avoiding onions and garlic could be a good sign
We're
for you,
spotted.
Ash. So we've got that going on. Maya Stone almost downs the barley venison leek like a shot. She's like instead
I
of
love her.
instead of a small bowl, it's a big spoon, and she's just like, that looks delicious. I'm a fucking drink it, right? So she just like kind of wolfs that down, and then kind of stops, and then makes herself kind of sit up and very carefully starts, feasting on the other stuff, very formally and with a spoon. Miranda is unabashedly slurping the snail, as it were, but she's making eye contact with basically everyone at the table except for Maya. Like she maybe just hasn't decided who she's gonna flirt with, just yet, uh, sisters included. So she is making a big show. Her technique is to mostly like lift the bowl and then slurp kind of the broth, cream, garlicky stuff, but then she very pointedly kind of slurps each snail up into her mouth, and she knows what she's doing. But yeah, so she's doing that while not embarrassedly avoiding eye contact or like dainty, all the little dainty ladylike wiping the buttery garlic cream off my chin comes exactly a heartbeat too late to be sincere, right? Like she's flirting it up with basically everyone there at your table. So that's the deliciousness on display. Up next, we have a number 2, which takes me back up the list. And a lot of you aren't able to kind of not notice because you're a little concerned about the goings on at the royal table, and because right now a lot of people in the feast are casting the occasional kind of good-natured chuckle glance up at Grandmaster Pycelle being scolded like a 10-year-old by the Lady Olena. So a lot of people are kind of laughing and glancing up at the table up there. But you see Stannis Baratheon again, the Lord of Dragonstone, which is supposed to be the seat of House Targaryen, and the Master of Ships, which, by the way, is a small reminder, that's almost a hereditary title that goes to House Valerian. Like for a long time, it was House Valerian or nothing. And remember that you guys, your mother was of House Valerian. You are, House Valerian as much as anything else. So you guys have a lot of reason to be kind of resentful of Stannis.
He's got our house, like our place.
Yeah,
our
but
castle, our island.
So he now, in his defense, he was fair enough and he let Bela ride in the horsemanship contest late. He has not been cruel to you this week or anything. But, even if you're trying to give him like the charitable reading when you kind of cast a glance his way, you can't help but notice that he has leaned over like on the armrest of on his chair and leaning away and or kind of leaning in and talking pointedly with John Arryn, the Hand of the King, who is sitting at King Robert's side. And John Arryn and Stans, they're not like pointing very clearly type of stuff, but it just kind of feels like every time you glance up there, they're looking at either Maya or Oris, and then kind of shaking their head a little bit or nodding at one another a little bit, or they're not saying anything to anybody else. They're not pointing or whatnot, but they're clearly conversating on the fruit of Robert's loins, is what you seem to be putting together from this. There's the occasional kind of rueful head shake, and as you're reminded, there's not a fucking blonde head in sight. Cersei Lannister isn't here. None of the royal family is here except for Robert. Even Jaime Lannister, her infamous twin brother, or these squires. None of those golden-haired sort are around for this, and they seem to be commenting on that. That's just kind of the vibe you get when you glance towards Stannis.
Rusty, as the evening goes on, I'd like to look for an opportunity to, without breaking too many procedures, talk to John Arryn in private.
Sure. And again, this is a dinner, so you're expected to go kind of chat with people. And it's also a dinner in King's Landing. So when you want to, you can just go chat with John Arryn and go, oh, perhaps we could step to the balcony for a moment.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of time to go by, and then I'm going to approach him.
Sure. So let me know when you choose to approach him, and we'll do that. In the meantime, let's cycle back around to Adam, because Adam, you have been trying to kind of keep an eye out for Oris. You're pretty sure you don't need to like take action about this, but you do notice, that kind of chatting from Stannis and John Aaron, glancing Oris's way. But what else is Adam up to here with the soups and his newfound dinner companions?
Sorry, I thought we'd moved on, so I was just gonna recap. But yeah, now that Littlefinger has actually kind of sort of slid up to where we are, I'm going to engage him in conversation because he's very important, and also
The
it's kind of
balls
been-
on this guy.
sorry,
I said the balls on this guy.
You!
me.
Your boss! Yes!
Fuck it.
Yeah.
That is not an insult. That's a
Yeah.
way to go. Do this
Well,
shit.
Well, what it really is like, well, Adam has decided to like make as good use of this as possible because you don't get invited to a feast with the king present and a lot of the small council every day. So, Peter Baelish is in a kind of, well, he's, well, I'm seeing like some kind of future parallels there of like being like Master of Coin, which Adam is kind of unofficially doing for House Nymerian at the moment, and has been had it kind of thrust upon him. So it's like, well, here's someone I could probably learn some stuff from. So is going to talk to him about his Master of Coinness and about kind of being the sort of brains of a house and stuff like that. No offense to my
I am, yeah. I was just gonna let that part slide before Bayless stabbed you or anything. I have a lot of difficulty with Peter Baelish's accent, and I
That's fine.
think it's because the actor changed it from season to season. I don't know, like who told him to do that, but he
To
got
be
more
fair,
Baelishy.
what's a more Peter Baelish thing to do than randomly change an accent?
That's like,
great.
you don't have to do
So,
you don't have to do a voice training, but like basically, I'm not
Yeah.
going like Adam's not going to exclude Lynn specifically, but he is going to sort of shift focus. And if Lynn joins in the conversation, that's totally grand. But yeah, like the kind of the current mood, I think will certainly shift now that there's kind of someone of like higher status than both of us there that I kind of want to engage on a sort of professional kind of
Right.
political level.
Give me a persuasion roll with the specialty of your choice and justify it to me. So,
Well,
whichever one you think you're going to use, you can use. And I would say you could probably use some status specialties for this also. If you've got status specialties that you like, that you think would apply, like stewardship, I would say you could use that on a persuade roll to talk about this. So while you're doing
Sure.
the roll, in the abstract, and the other thing is, I'm not good at talking about money. I mean, I'm a fucking full-time freelancer in the game industry,
that's fine.
so I'm not the guy for that.
No, it's
But
fine. I'm not good at that either. I am quite happy to hand wave it as like this is that we're going to describe that we do this, but we're not
Right.
going to actually.
Yeah. So you
Give me a
roll the dice in your total. In the abstract, Baelish responds in a polite way that you think is only mildly condescending because of the age difference. And it's partially because he is from a minor house and you're not. But you think if he is talking down to you, it's either just the way he talks to everyone, or it's because you're like 15, right? So
Yeah.
you think it's not a very pointed condescension. It's just his default
Yeah.
manner of addressing people. But he
Oh,
will
that's
talk,
totally.
yeah, in some kind of platitudes about, making the wealth you have work for you, and learn what assets you have to work with, and leverage those to gain the assets that you need. And it's
Yeah.
going to be kind of generic platitude type of talk, but it is, it's going to be kind of solid business sense and
Sure.
and that sort of thing. What kind of total did you end up with?
Yeah,
And
right,
what
so-
exactly did you roll?
Right. Well, I was frantically getting out dice because I can't find my dice bag, so I've got out new dice. But anyway, I've got Persuasion 4. The only persuasion-based specialty I have is Convince, which I don't think is relevant to this. Have status 2, but 1 bonus dice in Stewardship. So how would you like me to combine those?
Yeah, I'd say stewardship is the thing that you're kind of talking about.
Sure.
So roll your persuasion 4 and the stewardship 1 as a bonus die.
Right. So,
I'm all about cross-pollinating specialties
Sure.
sometimes,
That's
especially when it's, because a lot of the specialties could work for other stuff. So this will be an example of that. So yeah, just let me know what kind of total you got on that.
yeah, that's fine. Right. Ugh. Not brilliant, unfortunately. That's 12 altogether.
Okay, 12 is still one of the kind of thresholds for difficulties in this game. They like their kind of multiples of 3 a lot, because
well-
remember it was kind of 6, 9, 12, etc. What else? Did you have something else you were?
Yeah, because I do have 1 more temporary destiny point left.
Is it gonna get you a 3 or more?
No, I was actually going to ask whether I can use that to improve his disposition, or can I not do that because I've already used 1?
Normally you could, but because you got a 12 or better on this, basically what you're doing is improving his disposition towards you.
Okay.
That was kind of what I was treating it
Yeah.
as a charm roll using a different specialty, because
Right,
kind of
okay.
the end result of charm is disposition improves.
Sure.
Okay. And basically, because this was you trying to kind of impress him with business talk, so I was like, yeah, this works as
I'm a young
charm, but with a
up-and-comer.
different, yeah. So, yeah, just for the record, you have improved his disposition by 1. So go ahead and hang on to that destiny point. We'll save that.
Yay!
So yeah, good stuff there. Pretty productive.
I'm only going to be like having some of my soup while other people are talking. I'm not going to be, so I'm going to try and keep it polite that way, of like ask my question and then while they're answering, have a quick kind of sip of my soup. Maybe even kind of join in with the kind of complimenting all 4 of them, like in a kind of engaging him and like,
Right.
that's quite interesting combination and things, and just kind of make it friendly.
Well, and also you can call upon a bit of a Dornish and a Northern palate to make some foodie comparisons, and so yeah, you're definitely able, with that persuasive 4, that's nothing to sneeze at. That's your average knight's fighting score, right? Like a 4 is, I can probably make a living with this ability score, so you're able definitely to hold your own at a polite dinner table, and maybe it's because you're talking about things besides yourself, but you're definitely coming off a little more confident than normal, and stuff like that. So yeah, you're able to compare their venison barley soup to something you had at House Manderley, and blah 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 blah, and
that's exactly what I'm kind of going for.
Yeah, so you're definitely able to to kind of match the compliments without repeating them, and that sort of thing. Your current bad boy crush is not following suit. Lynn Corbray doesn't seem to be in the compliment business. He just kind of eats what he wants. Take what I'm after, type of thing. He just eats what he wants, and then, like, if he likes something, it's reward. Okay, well, that was about to be a little more salacious than I meant. If he likes something, its reward is him finishing it. All right, like that came out.
Wow.
Right? I didn't initially mean it that way. Yeah, but he's like what? Like, I ate the soup. That means I thought the soup was good. That's the closest you're gonna get to a compliment. Soup. Fuck you, soup. Right? Like,
That's
he just kind of
he's a bit rough.
Yeah, that's so yeah, he doesn't take up on the small talk. He pointedly doesn't talk about money, and you remember just general gossip that kind of everybody knows about some houses is that House Corbray is not a wealthy house. They are old and they are proud, but they are not rich. So you don't know if he's defensively ignoring the talk of money, or if it just goes in one ear and out the other, whether he means for it to do so or not, or he just thinks it's beneath him, or who knows. But he is not at all engaging in that branch of conversation.
Well, that's fine. I mean, just on a kind of, it doesn't all need to be about him. And like, I'm okay with making the power move of, I don't need to focus on you all the time.
You're a strong, independent Adam. And that leaves us with our third chat prompt, which was a 17. And this one is not going to be anything terribly exciting, but it just does kind of temporarily cast your gaze over to the kind of Reach and Stormlander table opposite the lot of you, where there's just kind of a cheerful knot of conversation in the middle. They're not nearly as spread out as this table ended up being, except for Oris and Lothar Brune down at the end. They're all just kind of intermingled with one another. And it's Sir Parman Crane, the knight with a golden cranes on a light blue. It's kind of an aesthetically pleasing combination. And he and his sister Meredith are also just, in many ways, just generically, aesthetically a pleasing Reach people, right? Like they're just kind of easy on the eyes, very polite, what you expect from a knight of the Reach and his charming younger sister, right? And he apparently said something clever and friendly, and just people had the table chatter among the Reach folk seems to be going the way table chatter among Reach folk goes. So that was our 17. Unfortunately, nobody's on that side of the table, and Sir Parman Crane wasn't going to do anything terribly exciting. He's not stabbing anybody or anything major at this point.
It's early on in the night.
At this point.
Yeah, it's early. Speaking of keeping track of the night as things progress, how are people doing with the drinks? We've still got the Baratheon Black and Yellows as like a limitless refill type of shindig, with the thick black stout or the yellow lager, and then also the Taroshi Bear Brandy, the Taroshi Pear Brandy.
It's a bit hairy.
We'll be enjoying the lager.
So
I tried the pear brandy.
yeah, see, you almost did it too. Get off my back.
Yeah. I think the soups sound like they'll go with the beers more than the wine I was having with the previous course. So I think Adam will go for the light beer.
And I'm going to go for the darker beer, which I think will complement the creaminess and garlickiness of the snails.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. Luke's definitely enjoying the lager of a northern style drinking horn. Just like constant.
Nice.
All right. So that will just about do it for the soup stage. I know we had plans to engage with John Aaron, Hand of the King, at some point. But I got the feeling you wanted it later. Is that correct?
I'm gonna wait a little one. First of all, I want to make sure I get a little further with Royce before I walk away. I have priorities, and
your sisters will just nab her out from under you.
Well, we're here too. I mean, we're talking to Miss Royce. I don't know what you call her.
Let's not assume where she's going to end up.
Well, I guess you can, but it's not gonna help me.
Well, it might.
Like, I'm sure that us sitting here talking about how great Sir Garland is totally going to help get you laid, little brother.
No, that's not what I was going to ask her about.
So what are you all talking to the lovely Lady Miranda about?
I'm quite ignorant of what the ladies do up here in the northern areas. I know what we do in Dorne, what we are, how we spend our time. But what do you do for fun?
You get a very kind of clear as a bell and just as pretty laugh as you keep calling them Northerners. Uh, and it takes her a moment, and she reaches over and puts her hand on Maya's arm. She goes, "Oh, they call us Northern. Ah, these Dornish." And then she leans the other way and puts her hand on Luke's arm. You lot are so charming with your geographical bent. But
I put my hand on top of her hand and look at her and go, "We are charming. We have our
Uh,
moments."
well, I'm afraid that the Vale of Erin can at times be dreadfully dull. We are just as hung up on chivalry as the Reach, except we have less territory for the fun parts of riding. Old Mary, and she does that kind of cute girl mock jealous glare across the room over to Meredith Crane, who you may recall they call Mary. Goes, Old Mary, she gets to take Marjorie and the rest of her friends out hawking and riding all the time, and we're stuck in all these dreadful mountains. Nobody but Maya knows how to ride them or has fun doing it. And she leans back over Maya's way and kind of talks up her friend a little. And you may recall Maya Stone was in the lead on two stretches of that horsemanship contest. And one of them, it was because she ignored the switchbacks and she just went straight up the fucking mountainside. So she clearly does enjoy, riding up hills and mountains and stuff like that. Um, but so she's like, so yes, I'm afraid that the veil is all the stodgy, honor-bound parts of the Reach with none of the fun. Our balls are, well, and she does kind of a pointed, eyes half-lidded look towards the king's table. Well, let's just say that the Lady Lysa isn't often one for frolicking. She's been ever so concerned about young Sweet Robin and his health, and we just haven't had as many balls as I hear used to happen in the Vale. So for fun, we come to King's Landing.
Well, how interested would you be in coming farther south?
We have some excellent
Sorry.
places to ride horses, much more open
And-
in the hills.
And
Although we
wonderful
have
horse flesh.
Yeah.
Well, you lot did, I recall, rather trounce us in that horsemanship contest, so I'm sure that you're onto something there. I would need to speak with Father first, but he is dreadfully concerned with finding me a new husband, and maybe if I cast a net farther afield, I wouldn't get someone so dreadfully dull.
Well, we also have a lovely, we call it the Oasis uh, at Wyvern's Rest, where we have waterfalls and a beautiful lagoon. And it's quite a merry place.
I'm sure that it is. And she kind of leans in, especially if half the rumors about Dornish parties are true.
Nice.
Go ahead, Luke.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna, with my hand still lingering on hers, go, "It's been a long time since I've been home."
But we are a warm and welcoming people.
Unless you fuck with us, then you die.
Whoa.
No,
It's not
I'm
wrong.
not here.
And then Adam
No.
stabs him all in the back and runs off.
Adam's just like, Dorn has enough bitches. We need more dudes down there.
Damn it, reverse sausage party. I'm out of here.
I
Just
have to
a
admit,
character
after
comment.
this week's experience with the joust and the tourney and all of the excitement, the pageantry, it would be. I'm interested in bringing some of that and sponsoring something like that at home.
Oh, well, I'm sure that if I told Father I was traveling simply to escort Maya to another riding contest, that he'd be more likely to allow it. I mean, if there was an event to go to, then I'm sure I could talk Papa into it much more easily.
Well, I think that I will be working towards that now.
As a quick out of character interjection, when we fall down to the abstraction of house management, houses can take actions every month, and one of the actions you can take is hosting a tourney. So that is something that there are kind of rules for, and it's a way to build status because you're showing off the wealth of your house by hosting it and stuff.
Exactly.
And that's something that it also kind of makes sense for the house to potentially look into in the near future, because you were kind of, Grandpa Makar, Lord Makey, was
Old
trying to
Makey.
keep you all kind of secret for a while, but you're clearly, this is kind of your coming out party, so maybe hosting your own, you know, grand tourney type of thing, that is something that also, you know, in setting that kind of makes sense. So yeah, that's definitely something we should put a pin in, and we will keep in mind as we get back down to Wyvern's Rest in coming months. Because I'm sure
I
you'll have
also
all-
think it's multiple birds with one stone.
yeah, absolutely.
Buy a
Um,
stone.
You're a stone.
You're a stone.
I believe that just about covers it for the soup course. Did Bela have anything in particular she was wanting to bring up with the girl talk going on? I know Luke's been horning in there, and Raina was kind of guiding the conversation. Did Bela have anything in particular, gossipy or not gossipy, or
No, I think she would try to wingman for her brother a little bit, seeing as there might be something there, and um, tying connections between those families would be a good thing. So she'll kind of back off a little bit to play wingman.
the way Robert put his hands over his mouth just then, that was more expressive than anything he did 2 weeks ago in that whole session where everybody else had shocked faces. Like that was the most emotional Robert got. Was when Baylor's like, "I'll play wingman for Luke." Like that was
Yeah, you need a screen cap that. Just use it for anything.
yeah, like, and there was a there was a moment in that session when Felicia and Erica and Ash all did that exact gesture, and Robert was just sitting there like,
Yeah, whatever.
What do you got?
don't care. Yeah, like, but yeah, but at Bela playing wingman, he's like, my heart, my family does love me, and they're showing it. So I believe that will just about do it for the soup course, which means entrees are coming up.
All right.
So for the entrees, chat, give me 3 more random numbers, going from 1 to 30, and I will describe the food while you give us the ingredients of kind of our next miniature scene. First off, brought out with the entrees, as other things are cleared away, they are going in kind of an exotic Associ or Dornish fashion, which you suspect may have something to do with the guests this evening. But you have grape leaves stuffed with a rice and chickpea paste. So kind of the real-life Mediterranean appetizer type of vibe. Yep.
Tomatis.
Yep. You have little sourdough crostinis, for lack of a better term. An awful lot of food terms are like real life French or Italian or whatever, so bear with me with some of these. But it's kind of a sourdough crostini with a fig and olive tapenade. So you've got that kind of salty pop flavor on top of it. And the drink accompanying the entrees is a sour red Dornish wine. You may be a little familiar with it. It's from Wyvern's Rest.
Yes.
So one of the
God.
wines that your family prepares, grandfather sent up plenty of casks, and some of them did come to the Red Keep. So that is our kind of the entree phase kicks off with some finger food and a new beverage.
Nice.
Well,
If
we'll
maybe
load
he
up
likes our
a
wine,
plate
then
with
maybe
some
he'll like us. Sorry, Flea, go ahead.
I was just saying, load up a plate with some of those tomatoes
Definitely, that's
and
also
the crustine.
like, I ate a big dinner before logging on, and I'm just already like, man, I want some of that stuff.
I could do without the snails, but
Is,
Yeah,
this,
snails are fucking disgusting.
I would have some of the wine. Is this the 292 from home?
Tastes
is.
like it, yeah. So you get to show off your wine palate for a bit.
Not a bad year.
Should you take that as a
I
benefit?
believe it was. It comes with the territory. It comes with your status. You get to know stuff about your wines. So give me a redraw on the 7. I believe that was you, Ash. For the chat number, I think that was
Okay.
again, because some of the NPCs we kind of are handling off stage. So give me a redraw on the 7. But I will go with Lock the Deckers 4. This one's kind of unfortunate. A 4 brings the eye back up to the king's table with the we're gonna go with your 11, Ash. You don't get to do 11 or 14. Pick one.
Oh
Mean
no,
it.
it's
Live
no,
your
I got all down because I thought that 11 had already been picked because I can't remember which numbers we've had already.
I got you. We'll go with the 11. But back up to the king's table with the 4 from Locke. And don't worry, Locke. This is not the royal boon that you handed out last week. This is for everybody to enjoy. You notice that young Robin Aaron is getting his dinner from
no!
from the Lady Lysa,
Don't
the
shame
Lady of the
him.
Vale. There's absolutely nothing wrong with breastfeeding in real life, unless the kid's like 10. And that's the problem.
Unless you're 32.
That's the problem with Robin.
Then it's kink shaming.
Yes, and that's kink shaming is also not cool, but it's also noteworthy at the dinner table, Adam. So keep your hands off Lady Forlorn at the dinner table.
I
so
did not
yeah.
do anything to Lady Forlorn. I've been very respectful to her.
So up there at the royal table, the good news is you guys are far enough away that you can't hear the like, "Mama, I don't want soup," or whatever. Like you don't actually have to hear the mewling conversation ahead of time. And she kind of half turns away, and you'll notice like everyone else does the same. Like they're kind of used to it. Like you shudder to think of Robert Baratheon's comments the first handful of times, and like how John Aaron had to try and like bring it up to the king, like, "Hey, bro, like that's not cool."
Can you not?
Yeah, like it was probably some pretty awkward conversations. You do hear an absolute ungentlemanly, unhighborn snort from the tables opposite you lot, and you look over and you see Orton Lugas punching Nathan in the shoulder and shushing him.
Good for him.
And then Nathan's like, "Oh, what was that?" And Nathan's like looking around for something else to point at and say he was laughing at and that sort of thing.
Can't take him anywhere.
As you're looking over that way, you do hear an almost little like choke sound from Oris, and then he does like the super Oris hunch, where it's partially like protecting his food and partially like looking away from it. So he's like, I can't look at it, but I can't look anywhere else. I'm not allowed to look anywhere. They told me to, I got to stay away from the king. I got to stay away from my stone. I can't look at the lady with her teats out, and everybody acts like this is normal. Dog, castle folk. Some of their food's weird. They accidentally had snails in my soup. So gross. So
I'm gonna need to go and like look after him because this just poor little soul.
And he's not getting any trouble or anything. He's just,
No, it's fine. I just feel absolutely terrible.
Sorely
that was
out of place.
I mean, in fairness, nobody's talking to Oris, and he's eating a lot of free food. So, like, he's pretty okay. Like, you've seen him in much worse. He's been in much worse moods. Worse things can happen. Yeah.
Quality drinks and he's good.
So, Ash died.
No.
Died.
Yeah, my tripod fell over.
So that was our 4. So a little bit more good for laughs than high drama. Sorry, Locke. To my credit, I did combine those 2 into 1 so that you're not going to have to get the Lady Lysa and then Robin later on. So I tried to minimize the chances of them coming up multiple times throughout the feast as every new dish gets brought out. I don't also have to describe Lysa Aaron's boobs and her 10-year-old suckling away on them. But again, nobody's up there at the table right now. So there was the potential, like if that happened while Luke was up there talking to her husband, maybe some important game shit could have come from it, for better or worse. You chose to wait, so you can prepare yourself before that at least. So that was our 4. The 7 is replaced by an 11. Okay. But first we do have the 13 to get also from chat. And that one is that while your eye is on the highborn table, you cannot help but notice the other lady up there at the Lord's or the King's table. And that is the impeccably well-mannered, until she chooses not to be, Lady Olenna Tyrell. She, of course, is sitting in the Queen's chair up there and just looking like it's where she belongs. Like she is used to being the lady of this sort of feast, you may recall, because she's the mother of the Lord of the Reach. And you know that they have their share of fancy feasts. So she looks absolutely impeccably in place up there, sitting there. And she's occasionally casting a scowl over at Pycelle, like she's keeping a wary eye on him. And she's very daintily tasting everything. She knows she's in here for the long haul with her tiny, delicate frame. But she is tasting all of it, making mental notes of some of it, no doubt disassembling recipes with a sip in a very, great Westerosi bake-off type of fashion. You can tell that she is in her element and kind of honestly critiquing each dish as she goes and is enjoying it and is currently, at least, not in, causing any tremendous uproar. She is very pointedly not noticing Lysa Aaron and young Sweet Robin. She is not like sitting and turning away from them in a kind of awkward, obvious way, like a Michael Redford is doing to Maya Stone. Like she's not making a big deal about it. She's just organically not noticing it so that she does not need to cluck disapprovingly or start a war between the Reach and the Vale, right? Like, because with a certain level of status comes a little bit more weight and danger to your every word and gesture and glance. And she is just very pointedly not noticing the breastfeeding of a 10-year-old right next to her. And she's not at all shaming it or mocking it or anything of the sort, the way she did with Grand Mr. Pycelle, um, who made a much grosser slurping noise. Which brings us back to our 11, our final prompt of the session comes from Maya Stone, who gives you a very similar set of body language as you notice Oris doing in your glance over your shoulder at him. As the lady Lysa Aaron uh, breaches most etiquette, you can tell that Maya Stone is accustomed to this. You remember she's sworn largely to the Vale. Like she serves the Vale houses that guard those gates. And so not only she's sworn directly to House Aaron, but you can tell that it still kind of takes her aback. It makes her uncomfortable. And, it could just be, uh, because boobs are out, period. Whatever. Or it could be lowborn expectations of highborn families. It could be kind of secondhand embarrassment for the house that she serves. Maybe she's self-conscious of that or whatever, but she does a very Orisian kind of hunching over her food, and trying not to be rude. And you don't know if it's specifically the lady Lysa Aaron or if it's just kind of how she feels eating some of these foods, because she's probably never had little fancy stuff wrapped in grape leaves before. So she kind of stops for a second and is like, am I supposed to cut these in half? Do I have to use the fork? Do I just get to eat one? Am I supposed to scrape all the stuff out and not eat the fig leaf? Highborn people sometimes don't eat all the stuff on their plate, right? So like she's kind of stopping for a second and waiting and kind of nervously watching. So it's
like watching pop the whole thing in their mouth.
So she's just kind of waiting and seeing how everybody else, eats their stuff. So it's just kind of general body language, and you're reminded, that there is a lowborn bastard amongst you. And remember, Maya Stone isn't even formally acknowledged. Robert Baratheon does have a formally acknowledged bastard, Edric Storm, and Maya's not that. It's unformally acknowledged, sure. But yeah, she has not been, raised with social niceties and stuff. So she's just kind of occasionally looking a little awkward with her food. It's no particular thing about this course. She does kind of make a sour face at the Dornish wine. Most other wines are sweeter, so you feel like maybe just the richness of flavor of your fine Wyvern's Rest blend may have caught her off guard a little. She's used to different wines, so she makes a little bit of a face at that and goes back to the thick black stout that she's been defaulting to. And then you can't help but notice the lot of you, and this is also true for Adam, because Adam's close enough and is also close enough to Michael Redford. You can't help but notice the way she just keeps on glancing down the table and trying to be noticed by Michael Redford. Every time she adjusts herself to try and look ladylike, she looks to one side, to try and kind of match Miranda Royce. And you notice she's trying to match you two also, the twinsies. She's like, all right, highborn ladies, I can do this. And Bela's an ass-kicking highborn lady. She was in the joust. And Reyna fought a duel. But they still count as highborn. I can mimic them. I can copy that. So she's consciously copying the maidens near her, and then kind of puppy dog eyeing down the table to see if Michael Redford sees her looking like a highborn lady. Right? It's very achingly open to the lot of you with your awareness scores. So Ash, how's Adam as also kind of an awkward, flirty type? How's Adam's tiny little gay heart responding to all this?
I know. Right. First of all, Adam knows what that looks like. He knows what that look means. So, and also, so and therefore, deeply sympathetic towards it. So can I sort of once I've noticed that, can I sort of use like the next point where, like, Peter Baelish has a lot of stuff to say that Lynn wants to listen to. So the next time that happens and their attention and you're like, I'm not being rude by like not speaking to them in that moment, to speak to Michael quietly.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, all of these kind of courses and NPC prompts that we're doing are the abstraction of several minutes of stuff all happening kind of simultaneously. So yeah, you can absolutely, when Lynn Corbray says anything to Peter Baelish, that's like you're opening, like, all right, those two are talking, I'll turn this way.
Exactly.
So yeah, you're able to find that sort of prompt for sure because you're the PC and that's what you want to happen. So yeah, you've got a moment of you and Michael sharing a glance. Take your opening.
Michael, I don't know if you've noticed, but I think you have an admirer down there at the table. Maya Stone's looking at you.
He sits up a little straighter and he squares off his shoulders and he chins up a little bit, and you feel like maybe he's trying to look good for a profile shot, but then his features shift to a Lynn Corbray mask of being purposefully kind of unreadable and distant. You get the feeling he's kind of practiced that look from Lynn Corbray.
He's practicing it in the mirror at home.
Showing that he doesn't care type of thing. And his eyes go kind of partially lidded and a little distant, right? And he goes, I am aware it has been impossible to miss. I don't care to match her affections just now.
Oh, I see. Oh.
We spent some time together when we were younger, but I'm older now, and we are in King's Landing, not passing the time in the Mountains of the Moon. And he's like pointedly looking just away, like from her half of the room, like in a very kind of clear, like yes, quite fancy, and like just very purposefully distant.
I see. Well, I hope I didn't create any awkwardness bringing it up.
Not to worry yourself there, young Adam. The awkwardness is not your fault. It is hers.
That sounds like there's more to it than just you being older.
Things have changed since the time we spent as friends. I have different responsibilities now. I am older and more mature, and she needs to understand that.
Oh yes, I suppose there is rather a difference in status and expectations. A pity that should take precedence over what's in our hearts sometimes.
He does a very Lynn Corbray kind of half roll of his eyes. So, well, hearts are all well and good to small folk and bastards, perhaps, but some of us have greater responsibilities to worry about.
But I really don't want to insult him, but damn it, boy, you're a fool. But yeah, I guess tactfully extract myself from that.
He is absolutely willing to, like, you just need to stop talking about it and he will let it die, right? Yeah. Like he is very clearly trying to ignore the situation as much as he is trying to ignore her. So yeah, like as soon as you just like don't respond, he is fine. There's no no need for like a graceful exit strategy type of thing. Like he's just nope.
Yeah, it's so much less intriguing when he's clearly copying Lynn. It's just like, oh, dude, get your own personality.
He's not that
So
kind of guy.
so what about Luke and the ladies? All of like 5-10 feet away. How are you all reacting to the plaintive puppy dog looks and the stiff and very pointed ignoring of them?
Luke is going to very bluntly just kind of say, oh, you can do better, Maya. And then kind of look at her and look at Redford, like, so it's clear he knows what she's looking at.
Miranda lets out a little like scandalous that somebody should approach a topic so bluntly, and she has been very blunt and open when it's trying to get other people off balance, but you can tell that she cares about Maya and her happiness. So she's like, how dare you peel that bandage away. She kind of straightens up a little, and Maya
Pretending it isn't happening is not making it any less painful.
Maya makes a fist around her dining fork, like she's thinking about stabbing you, or him, or herself. Like this whole thing just clearly has her like tensed up.
Maya, I must ask,
she-
if you're a step of my family, you need to stab me. And I'll
If
hold
you
my
wanna-
arm out.
She gives you a
Not
look
my
like
sword arm, my other arm.
through gritted teeth. She's like, "You are tempting me, sir. I am certain that I have no idea what you are talking about." And she tries to do the kind of cool, distant thing. It does not come as easily to her as it does Michael Redford or Lynn Corbray. But she's trying to be like stiff and formal and not actually acknowledge the situation.
Lady Stone, my words were not meant as a jape or an insult.
An insult unintended is still an insult. I would rather not talk about this with strangers.
Very well. I will respect that.
Will I?
I kind of hope
The,
not, but I'm not going to be the one who pushes it.
The sideways stranger's glance was pointedly at Luke, the only dude at the table.
Right.
Like, you two were able to pick up on that.
Under
that
the
it
table,
did seem to
I'm
only
gonna
be Luke.
under the table. I'm gonna put a hand on Miranda's like knee and just kind of pat her for a second, and then stand up and say, "Well, if you'll excuse me, I have business to attend to." And I'm going to excuse myself from the table, partially to let them talk, and partially to begin to pursue my other endeavors.
You paused
All right,
way too long before saying hand.
I look suspicious.
We will.
Oh, he doesn't like move his
Yeah.
hand real fast either. It's on there for a little while. Then kind of a little pat and.
We will move on to your seduction of John Aaron, Hand of the King, momentarily. Let's keep the camera on this table as you leave. You guys just see Luke use the armrests of his chair to stand up, and then he leaves. So it's time for some girl talk.
Yeah. So have you talked to him at all?
Sorry,
asked to
which
Maya.
was this?
I asked to Maya, referring to Michael Redford.
Like with a glance.
She kind of leans over to like, not since I got here in the city. He won't talk to me.
When was the last you saw him then?
Back at home in the Vale, the last time Sir Lynn visited the Eyrie, we spoke at length in the stables before their ride down out of Out of character, I forgot the name of the passes. I apologize.
Sky.
We spoke at yeah. I don't remember what order they're in, and she certainly does. But we spoke at length in the stables before their ride down into the lowlands. But since we got to King's Landing, he has not acknowledged me. He didn't even wave at me before his joust against that giant, and he has not spoken with me here at the feast. And she sighs very pointedly.
What's changed other than just the location? Anything?
She leans in and kind of hisses. I think it's that Lynn Corbray. Michael's been squaring with him forever, but it's only just here in King's Landing that Michael's trying to act like him, and who knows what Lynn has done to him.
Isn't is Michael the heir of his house?
Are you asking in or out of character? Sorry.
Out of character.
I wanted to be sure how to if you were asking in or he is not. He is the youngest son of House Redford.
Out of a lot or two? I mean, there's a difference.
I believe he's the fourth,
Yeah,
That's
he's
a
the
lot.
fourth.
third or fourth.
He's the youngest of four.
Someone may have spoken to him and chastised him or filled his head with nonsense. But it doesn't have to be Sir Corbray.
Miranda cuts in with a kind of delicately proper tut tut tut. Well, it's not nonsense here in the north. Maya is rather disadvantaged when it comes to taking her pick of young suitors. There are some that are going to be sincere and some that may not. It's not her fault, of course, who her father is, but it does influence such things. You get the hint that there's like a long running "I told you so, sweetie" type of vibe going. Like she may have tried to warn Maya off in the past, and
I understand the differences, the social differences. And I think that this is a poor choice for you, Maya. This young man, if he will treat you so differently in public and out and with other people around than how he does in private, then he is not worth your time or your heart.
Miranda does an almost baby boomerish clearing of her throat. I don't think it was Maya's heart that he took. And then, like, very primly and properly raised eyebrow, looks away, that type of. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Did he make promises?
Maya shakes her head. Of course not. He didn't say anything he shouldn't have said. And then Miranda's like, or anything you didn't want to hear. And, like, there, it feels like an old argument.
Yeah. I would mark it up to an experience, hopefully enjoyed, and move on to better rides.
Maya flushes super red, which stands out in that pale skin, because when they're not drunkenly ruddy and red-cheeked like King Robert normally is, you do notice a paleness of skin in that line. So she turns like beet red, and is suddenly like, "Ooh, look at this fucking Christini," and like just like not talking. Miranda giggles and reaches across the table to touch Raina's forearm, and she's like, "Well, they had seemed to enjoy the ride."
It only gets better after the first, so really.
It's true.
Yeah, after that you get to do the weird stuff.
Miranda like does what it goes. Ugh. It was dreadfully dull after we got married.
I have heard tales.
Have you heard that it bored him to death?
Oh, no. I've heard
Edgy.
maybe you were a bit not boring.
She leans in pointedly, and she does like a big show of a gossipy look around. She goes, "It burst his heart, dears. That's why I'm grieving." And she like pointedly has like one black ribbon, like as part of her outfit. Because most of their outfit is like the purple, like a purple night sky and a moon. But she has like a black ribbon around one arm, the way some maidens might wear a knight's favor or
Right.
vice versa. But she's got a black one. She goes, "I'm still in mourning." Lascivious wink. She doesn't like say it out loud, but she might as well have.
Well, then we definitely need to find you some Dorner suitors.
I don't know. I've heard your standsteeds are quite frail and can't handle heavier riders. And she gives a little side to side jiggle.
Well, I'm certain there are at least a handful who would love to try.
They're certainly very frisky.
She blushes on command quite prettily, as though yours was like the scandalous comment, not hers type of thing. Like she likes to do that, kind of responding like, "You're being so naughty." Like she literally just talked about sexing her husband to death and and wanting to get boned by Dornishmen, but like your comment of handful, was the one that could be a double entendre. So yeah, she's like that. Um, so all right, I'd say that probably does it for our Maya Stone pick there. I feel like we had a decent little back and forth. Didn't have a lot to go with Lady Olena. We'll pick you up at the King's Table this upcoming course, Luke. I think that'll work, and that'll maybe get a little bit more of a reaction from some of these random numbers, and not all of them are going to be huge role play prompts. That's part of the fun of having a larger party, and you guys are all kind of focusing fire right now in one little group. But I think that just about handles the entree course. Was there any other interaction that people particularly had in mind during that course of crostinis and tapenade and the little stuffed grape leaves with the rice and stuff?
No.
Yeah, I'm good.
I think Luke is up next with his hunting of the hand.
Yeah, I think for the next course we'll have him up there. Say, he mingled his way up there for this, which means the entree course has passed, and it is time for salads. Chat, just give me 2 numbers for this one. The salads are brought out as the soups are cleared away, and several people are taking these opportunities to kind of shift areas. You notice that Nathan Lugas is now up at the King's Table chatting with King Robert. They're toasted something and they're drinking and yada, yada, yada. But the salads are brought out, and they are tossed mixtures of spinach, sweetgrass, and summer greens, topped with pecans for crunch, and then slivered plums and strawberries. And they're in a bright blended citrus for the sauce. So it's a very kind of bright, palate cleansing, fresh springtime type of salad.
Brenda
That
gets
is
an
brought
Elena
out.
look as she dissects it in her head. This actually has good. This could have legs in Dorn. At our table.
So I thought that one sounded pretty yummy. And we've got. I've only got one number from chat so far. We got one more coming. I've got Locks 20 and a 13. We just had a 13. Yeah, 13 was Lady
Okay.
Olay. All right, we'll go with the 5 instead. All right, that works. So, soups are cleared away. Tasty, tasty salads are brought out, kind of in between. People mill around and are chatting and stuff. Um, we've got our 28 first. And that's going to be everybody's gaze kind of travels and wanders as they're leaning and watching and oohing and awing as the servants come by and are reaching past you. And anytime there's kind of a course change like this, um, everybody's shifting in their seats a little bit. So you can't help but notice, Bela, as you're glancing towards the end of the room to lean and look into salads and ooh, yours looks great, and oh, I've got a little more strawberry than plum, and blah blah blah. You notice over at the edge of the room, where they're flanking the doorway, the Kingsguard Sir Marin Trant is just giving you a glare from really far away. Looks like we lost
wait.
Ash. All right, Ash is gone, but it looks like Ash is coming back. So yeah, Sir Marin Trant of the Kingsguard.
Sorry about that. I get all froze up.
That's fine. It happens. It looks like we even popped back into the right spots. So yay. Marin Trant, and he's on duty. Remember that's kind of the difference maker for the Kingsguard is when they have those helmets on or not. That's kind of whether they're working or not. And he's supposed to be working, and he's standing there flanking the door, but he is just glaring at you in a way that honestly
It's one of those.
is pretty close to giving you a destiny point back. But it's that like if you weren't Bela, it would be scary because he is a fearsome, renowned fighter, yada yada yada. But he definitely seems to have taken a personal dislike, and he and Boros Blunt are kind of leaning towards each other, just talking and kind of glaring at the lot of you. But Trant in particular is very clearly trying to like stare you down from across the room.
I'll pick up my glass of wine and I will toast him and then drink and go back to my salad and ignore him.
So you give the glorified bodyguard far across the room from all the food a cheerful salute and then go back to your feasting. It does not go unnoticed by your table mates either.
Yeah.
You see Marin Trant's gauntleted hands curl into fists of impotent rage, and Maya kind of openly is like, "What is she? Who is she? Is she toasting them all? What is going on?" And